Alrighty, hello, good morning, good afternoon. I guess it's technically 12:01. Welcome to our third series in the Fullerton Community Updates. My name's Stephanie Godel, Chief Operating Officer and Broker of Century 21 Discovery. And I've got my partner, Joe, here, CEO of Century 21 Discovery. And we are here for the next session in our community update. So, Joe, would you like to introduce our special guest today?
I would. Thank you, Stephanie. Today, we are really fortunate to have Dr. Bob Pletka. He is with the Fullerton School District as their superintendent. Bob has had the last 15 elementary schools, 3 junior highs, 2 K through 8 schools, and 20 total schools. That's Dr. Pletka. And then we also have our Fullerton Joint Union High School District Superintendent, Dr. Scott Scambray. He's got 6 comprehensive high schools, 1 continuation high school, 1 alternative. 6 four-year comprehensive high schools are operated by the district: Buena Park, Fullerton, La Habra, Sonora, Sunny Hills and Troy, La Vista High School, a continuation high school, and La Sierra, an alternative high school. Also serve Fullerton Joint Union High School District students. And these 2 guys are going to give us a great update on what's going on in the education field in the middle of this COVID-19 crisis.
And before we jump into the updates, just a reminder, if anybody has any questions as time goes on, just put them in the comment section and we will do our very best to answer those questions. I'm sure there's a lot of them out there, but Joe, back to you.
All righty. So let's start off today with Dr. Pletka. Bob, why don't you start off and get us going?
Well, just want to say good afternoon to everybody, and I appreciate the invite being here. Thank you, Joe, for reaching out to me. And so I was just going to give a little bit of an update, maybe kind of what happened, a little bit of the history. It seemed so long ago, but it was just about 7 or 8 weeks ago. A little bit about what's happening now, some of the challenges. And then as we look to the future, what are some of the things that we're hearing, and what is our start date? I know that was been a question. So if we think back there before March 16th, the week prior to it, some of the pundits were saying that, you know what, actually we should keep kids in school. They were at that time saying, first of all, kids don't get sick. And even though they may be asymptomatic, you know, they just didn't have, there wasn't this danger. And then at that time, kind of early on, they were saying, well, maybe it even keeps them safer. Instead of the kids out in the community, they're in schools. So that was the kind of the initial thought, and that was what we were hearing. Suddenly things changed really quickly. So on Thursday, I believe it was March 15th, 7 states closed down. They closed down their schools, and they closed down most of their economies at that point. The next morning, on Friday, we woke up and Long Beach, San Diego had closed, and we heard that the governor was proposing that we also close our schools. And so at that time, our Orange County schools, we met, and at that point decided to close down our schools. And pretty much at that point, almost every school district within 1 week in the state had closed down. One other thing that had come, it was not just from the governor's office. Very shortly, we also from the Orange County Health Department, they had said that, in essence, saying that we could not have anybody but essential workers at work, and they did not consider teachers in school essential. They said essential was distance learning education. And so in essence, even without the governor's order, our health department, in essence, also closed us down. Those 2 kind of pieces of information working at the same time. So, and while we do have a good infrastructure in the area of technology and one-to-one and many, across basically 4th to 8th grade, across our schools, just being able to switch gears literally within 24 hours was an incredible challenge. And we were having teachers work together and just to try to move forward. We also had spring break in there, which in some ways was a good thing because it allowed everybody to kind of put together plans so that after spring break, we could really roll out. Early on, there were some challenges around meals. So How do you serve socially distanced meals, and what does that look like? Initially, we had parents that, while they still had their jobs, they couldn't even find food. I mean, they were saying, hey, I can't even go buy the stuff from the store to prepare the meals. And so that was kind of some of the initial issues. Since then, we've had lots of families lose their job, moms and dads not have it. And even though there was unemployment, the unemployment, it's been hard to actually register for that. And so people had this period where they were unemployed, but not able to actually look or get the benefits because they couldn't even, they were being kicked out of the website. And so you had people that in a bit of a desperate situation. And so we really had to look at what we were going to do for that. So right now we serve 5,000 meals a day at all our elementary and K-8 schools across the district. That includes, they get a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner with all at once in that meal. And it includes a hot meal in those supplies. Because we've had so many families literally not have enough food for the adults, because we only serve the meals to the children. We've had lots of nonprofits, churches, Pastor Caleb stepped forward and they're adopting some of our families. So we give out hundreds of meals and actually goodie bags and toiletries to some of our adopted families through the support of the community. We've been very fortunate, very, very fortunate in that area. And we just appreciate people coming forward. We've had folks donate jump ropes for our kids. I mean, as you can imagine, being stuck at home, they're like, the families are looking for things for their kids to do. And so that's been nice. We've had people donate books, graphic novels, all kinds of sorts of things. So it's our community in Fullerton. We are so grateful for everybody stepping up and coming forward. And it's actually pretty inspiring to see everybody come forward and do that. I would say the challenge for sure is distance learning. And it's not a matter of just whether having someone has internet or not, but think of this Zoom phone call. It, in many cases, requires a pretty high-speed internet capability to do that. If you have the bottom of the wrong kind of internet, it's hard actually to do Zoom. And with everybody going on Zoom at the same time, even if you have good internet, there's times where it just goes down. Mm-hmm. And so people are struggling with that. And imagine 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning across the country, in California, Southern California, and in Fullerton, literally all of these network systems are being taxed, and it's really hard. So there's been struggles with the distance learning. I don't want to say it's like, oh, everything's great. In fact, it's hard. You have parents that are like, I just can't get my kids to do it sometimes. And so working with parents to have schedules and those sorts of things so that there's routines, just like when kids get, young kids, they go home, you have them do their homework, they eat, they get ready for their, for bed, they put their PJs on. So those schedules that parents do for other things, we've encouraged them to do for their young kids, for their 5-year-old, their 8-year-old, and actually for 12-year-olds, it works pretty good too, to have a schedule. So those have been some of the things that we've done. And then in terms of looking forward, just to say we don't know. I mean, I have heard the governor said things like, oh, we're going to have an early start time. Maybe it'll be the end of July. We have a date. It's August 11th. It's been published. We've had it out for a long time. August 11th is our start date, which is actually fairly early anyway. So I've heard some people say, well, late August or late July, early August. So we're actually consistent with that, but we've already been. Summer school, we are having a summer school distance learning. So they won't be in the classes, but we will have teachers working with our students for summer school. And basically anybody can sign up for that. And we'll have teachers to support that at all of our schools. As far as, again, what does the fall look like? I mean, my crystal ball is a bit fuzzy at this point. I mean, it depends, I think, on new cases. I think it depends on, I've heard social distancing of 6 feet. Let's just do the math. I do not have enough square footage of building inside to accommodate a 6 feet spread from every kid. And I'm not alone in this. This is true of most of the districts and most schools. Occasionally you'll have a school that has those sorts of facilities, but for the most part, that poses a challenge. But we are still making preparations. we will have, right now, our plan is that our kids, right now, we're looking at masks for both the adults and the kids. How does that work? Hand washing stations. So we're going to have extra hand washing stations as they come in. They'll be washing their hands prior to coming into the classroom. We've even looked at, we're still looking into it, but the possibility of even some temperature screenings. We have to see what that looks like, but it's something that we have begun discussions on. And so, again, what does that look like? We are looking for further direction and guidance from the state. The governor has not given additional guidance on this. We're looking for additional guidance from Tony Thurman, who is the state superintendent. He's not provided that yet. And we're looking for additional guidance from the county superintendent, and he has, as of yet, not provided. That's not to say that they should have it, just to say that as of this moment, we're still waiting for that guidance. And based on that, once they've kind of come up with some of the parameters, some of the health parameters that they expect us to follow, then we will create some options. I will say this, we do have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C based on some of those things, but it is premature to share plans that at this point may never come to pass.
Well, and like you and I were discussing a few minutes prior to the phone call, which is stuff is changing constantly. And it feels like for the last 2 months, every day it's changing more and more. So it is very difficult to plan, 3-4 months ahead when we aren't really sure where we're going to be. And I'm glad you actually answered one of the questions, which was they were interested in the status of the governor's suggestion that school might resume in July. So everybody heard August 11th is the start date. So thank you for that. I think one thing I want to hit home for sure, and we have been talking about this since day one with our agents, is the idea of keeping your routine and the importance of keeping your routine. That being said, I can't imagine. I don't have any kids, any small kids. I have 3 goats. Those are kids, but that's different kind of kids. But sometimes it's really difficult, especially when they're not physically leaving the home to go to school and then come back. So their routine is disrupted, but to keep them as much on a routine as possible, but at the same time, like, give them a little grace, give yourself a little grace as a parent. Like, everything is up in the air. It's like paper is just flying, and it's okay to have a little grace and be okay with some discomfort and like abnormal times.
Yeah, no, it's definitely very normal. And in some cases, everybody wants to do a good job. Moms and dads, they want to do a great job for their kids. And teachers, they want to do a great job for their students. And we just have been put into a situation where it's not optimal. I had somebody say, well, this distance learning thing isn't as good as it is not as good. Like real education, there's a reason when they come to school. It's not just for the academics. It's also for the social emotional support. I mean, actually, kids have comfort in connecting with a community of other students and other caring teachers. And so this is not the ideal situation, but everybody has stepped up. Again, I've said before, our parents, I'm just so proud of our parents. I'm proud of our Fullerton community. Teresa Harvey stepped up and helped us actually identify some businesses, restaurants that actually helped with some of the feeding, because we had social distancing requirements in our kitchen, and that kitchen, because of the social distancing, wasn't able to produce as many hot meals, but we did reach out to some of the restaurants, and they're actually helping us with this. So Teresa Harvey, also a big shout out to you and our whole community of businesses that stepped up.
I think, looking for a silver lining in this whole scenario, not only are we able to communicate like this and reach more people and engage with more people, but it warms my heart to hear how the community has, rallied around our kids and is doing everything they can to make sure kids are getting what they need and food that they need. And that's just incredible. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't realize it was to that level.
Oh, one more piece too, Ken Dahmer. I want to give him some love here too. So we reached out and we wanted to be able to, I know they have a channel on Spectrum. I think it's channel 3. And so he offered it so that we can actually deliver content. Now, we're not TV producers, and it is an amateur job, I understand. And so if people want to be critical, I will take that criticism. But we thank the city for the use of their channel television. And so we actually have programming that Goes from about 8:30 in the morning till about 2 in the afternoon. And albeit not the best, it does have arts activities for the kids. It has writing activities, and there's other sorts of things.
What a great resource.
Yeah. And it was great that the city offered that. It was, again, a blessing.
That's awesome. Okay, Scott, how about from you? How's the high school district going?
Well, things are going very well, as well can be in this type of situation. We were fairly prepared. I will say we went one-to-one about 4 years ago. One-to-one means all of our students have got a Chromebook as soon as they check in. First day of school as a ninth grader, and they keep that Chromebook all the way through their senior year. So our teachers have been working with Google. We're a Google district. Google Classroom is our major platform. So we've been incorporating that for 4 years. Now, not on a daily basis. So there was some adjustment when we had to go online. So we knew at the beginning of March that most likely our schools were going to close down. So we started some period trainings for our teachers, bringing them up to speed on new platforms that they could use when we were eventually going to go online. And then school, as Bob said, school closed on March 13th. On the 16th and 17th, which were a Monday and a Tuesday of March, we had the teachers working together in departments, creating lesson plans. And then on that Wednesday, March 18th, we started our distance learning. So there was only a 3-day gap, really, when we did not have school. And I have to give our teachers have done a wonderful job. And some had been doing more of it, but on the fly, they've done an incredible job. And I couldn't be prouder of them. As far as the schedule goes, we wanted to keep it as normal as possible and keep a sense of normalcy for our students. So we start school at 7 o'clock for those students who start at 7, and most students start at 8. But the kids are up. They need to check in during the day. They don't all have Zoom meetings every period, but they do need to check in before 3 o'clock to access all of their lessons. Roll is taken by the teacher. So basically based on whether the students check in and access the lesson for that day. And meaning rolls taken with our system, if the students are absent, the parents do get a call automatically from the school on that, from the computer, let them know that they did not access the curriculum that day. We do have limited staff on campus. There's an administrator every day. We do have a technology person in case students are having issues with their Chromebooks, chargers, that type of thing, that they can come by and pick it up so no time is lost. Before school went out, we had purchased 800 hotspots for those students who did not have internet access. And when last time I looked, we had given out about 700 of those. So we're pretty sure that all of our students do have access at this point. As Bob said, where it gets a little tricky, even in my house, is when you have more than one person online at the same time, things get a little bit slow. Mm-hmm. Summer school, we have a very active summer school, close to 4,000 students. I don't know if it'll be that large this year, but we will have summer school and it will be online also. The seniors, it's really been a sad time for our seniors to go through this whole time. Those involved in activities, sports, to not be able to participate in the spring, the junior senior prom, and of course graduations. We just cannot gather. And so we're putting together a virtual graduation at each school. That's the most we can do right now. We do have a normal graduation planned for August 5th and 6th at our high schools if we're able to do it then. But that's the plans as we go forward.
And I can only imagine the frustration from not only seniors, but their parents, but it really is totally out of your control in regards to we just can't gather. So I love that you're doing virtual with hopefully an in-person graduation a couple months down the line.
Yeah, we're just hoping, but again, the date is planned, but we don't know. It is out of our hands. And, big things for the junior senior prom. I know my daughter had already bought a dress. A lot of girls had bought dresses.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal, and they weren't able to do it. And there's nothing we can say except I'm sorry, and we move forward at this point.
How are talking about extracurricular activities like athletes, the band, drama, are they still doing anything now, or how is that looking, or is it just stopped?
We have basically, like we're doing here, we have lessons and workouts posted online.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly not, they don't have access to the fields or anything like that, but there are workouts that they can do at home and do as much as possible.
Nice. Are the coaches getting involved with Zoom and all that fun stuff?
Trying to.
Yeah.
Trying to. Just like, you're the marching band teacher. If we go back to school in August and the marching band's expected to march at the first football game, the pressure's on them too. And this is a huge time of practicing during the summer, and there's definitely an adjustment period.
Yeah. Joe?
I was talking to my brother about that the other day, and he's a strength and conditioning coach out in the Ventura area. And he said it's going to be interesting to see the guys who have, a full-blown weight system in their garage versus the guys that don't have any at all, and they're using, pure, body strength, push-ups and stuff like that.
Right.
And what the difference in strength is going to be, if any, when they're all able to get back together. So it'll be interesting to see that. That was an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, you lose it as a young person. You don't lose it as quickly as we do. I know. Trust me.
7 days and you're done.
That's right. Things fall apart.
So I have a question in regards to grades. Scott, this is directed for you first. Are students still receiving letter grades, or has it switched? Okay, so it's still letter grades.
Yeah, we felt very strongly, and so did our teachers, that the letter grade is still given. Our students have worked very hard. We don't want to, and not just for our seniors, but for underclassmen too, as they go forward and getting into colleges. And there's been some talk that the colleges are going to overlook it, but that's just in-state. That doesn't count out of state. Scholarship opportunities down the line. And if you're given just a pass fail, you don't get the additional grade points that you would we did make a small adjustment. Our grades A through C are given, and then a no credit.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if it was if no letter grades were given out, how that was going to affect college applications and that whole process. But you answered.
Districts have done all kinds of things: pass, fail, credit, no credit, that type of thing. But ours, we just made one small adjustment.
And it seems with that, only that small adjustment, that you are looking beyond just the next few months. You're really looking the next few years of what that's going to look like getting into college from a couple years from now. This little blip isn't going to affect that, hopefully.
That was our goal. Yes.
But I approve of that message.
and quite honestly, there were some districts that they gave them the grades that they got at the third quarter. I didn't want to take away our students' drive and motivation to keep studying.
And how are you and your teachers, especially, how are they talking about motivation and that drive? How are they handling that? How are the teachers doing? How is it? I mean, we love the teachers.
the reports that I'm getting are very good. We've had very few students who aren't checking in. Those who weren't checking in, we made home visits to remind them to do that. But our attendance and participation has been very, very good.
That's good news. Hey, Bob, how about your teachers? How are they doing with this whole adjustment?
Well, I mean, for us, like Scott, we've had a one-to-one device for our kids pretty much across the entire district. And so there's a lot of background knowledge in terms of using the technologies and even they even have resources and different things. But I will say that there still is a challenge when, as a teacher, you want to have your kids learn, and teachers are used to kind of going above and beyond. And so if a child isn't getting something, they're right there, and they can literally scan an entire classroom, see which kids aren't getting it, and then help them. I think that part has been really difficult. I think it's like they know that in some cases some kids aren't getting it, but they're not there unless the kid asks for help. Now, we do make phone calls just like Scott. I mean, we've sent letters home. We call on a weekly basis to make sure that they're being involved, but it's less than ideal. So I would say that in terms of the basic skills of our teachers, I think that part they've really shined, but I still say there's some level of frustration that not being able to be fully there for their kids and really just kind of go that extra mile.
I would agree with Bob. Well, I think our teachers have done a wonderful job, and there's been great participation. We're not made to teach like this full time. Mm-hmm. There's that social emotional, that being in the same room, and certainly a lot of our classes are so hands-on. You look at art and chemistry and welding and all the other things that we do, our ag programs just cannot be done with distance learning. So I believe we're making the best of it, but it's not the best situation.
So just to be clear, Scott, you're not sending the welding torches and tanks home with the kids and letting them share it week after week?
The tanks aren't going home with the kids. No.
Oh, darn. And the little settling torches that they use in science? No, none of that, eh?
So we're getting a couple questions coming in regards to what the fall next school year is going to look like. I know we've kind of touched on it. We don't have a crystal ball. We're not really sure. But a lot of questions have come in as far as alternative schedules and then sterilization and cleaning schedules. So going from the alternative schedules, is that something that's being considered, moving forward into the next school year?
I'll talk about one of the things that we are going to do regardless of what happens. So already we've received phone calls from parents that have very strong opinions that they are not going to send their children back, regardless of whether the school opens, regardless of what the governor says. We have parents who are saying, I just don't feel it's safe. And so what we wanted to make sure is, if parents are feeling that way, that they have some alternatives within our district. And so we are proud that we are going to offer distance learning independent study. So for parents that, have really said, no way, I'm not sending my child, there will be an alternative so that they feel safe. And ultimately, I believe that a parent should choose what's best for their own child. And if they're not feeling safe, we will be offering that. So that we'll be starting that as of August 11th. Exactly what that looks like, we are working in committees to be able to determine what would that look like in terms of, who's going to be providing that. It will be our teachers, but, kind of the logistical piece. So that's something we're really proud that we will be offering and expanding that. And so there's one of the things.
Yeah, same with us. We will have distance learning programs for those students who are not able to come back. I would imagine we are going to have some teachers with pre-existing conditions who can't come back either. So we will have to make accommodations for them. The schedule will not look the same. I don't prefer the kids come every other day. I think that would be a nightmare. And as Bob mentioned, even with half the kids, we have, in Troy's case, we have 1,350 kids on campus. Maintaining social distancing is impossible. With 16 or 17 kids in the class trying to get in and out, I just don't see it happening. And with the student safety and our employees' safety at the top of the list, that is not something I would recommend. But at this time, we have no idea when they're going to open up the schools.
I couldn't even imagine trying to go every other day. I would totally forget what day it was. I already have a hard time. Like, what day is it now? Like, am I supposed to go to school today or not go to school today? So that sounds like a difficult from a logistics standpoint. Somebody just asked the question, are there going to be teachers who run virtual classrooms? I think that was basically answered.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's a fun question. I've been asking this question to a lot of people I've been coming in contact with, business owners, real estate agents, now superintendents. What has worked really well for you guys in running your school districts over the last 8 weeks that you see yourself continuing after this is all over, after everything goes back to normal, the new normal? But what's worked really well that you would like to see continue?
I think the silver lining to this, the whole situation, if there is one, I think our teachers have been exposed to many different tools, online tools that they may not have used before. Mm-hmm. And I think even when we come back to full time, that they're going to be able to utilize those in the classroom.
That's great.
Yeah, ditto that. I mean, I do feel like, while I think a lot of our teachers felt really confident with it, I think it's really stretched the entire team and all our teachers. And I think it's really helped them to say, you know what, we can look at different ways to extend classroom learning to at home. And I do think we might even be better at serving some of our populations that have some unusual circumstances. So like home hospital, I think we'll even be able to provide a better experience in terms of distance learning. I think potentially in the future, we see extending, like, you know, for parents that maybe really like the distance learning and really like the homeschool and want to support their kids at home. We're looking to expand to say, you know what, we might be able to do that in the future as well and do a better job of serving some of our families that really want to do that. So I think there is some silver lining with all of this.
Here's a question that I think is a good one. Both of you at some point had talked about this earlier on in the phone call, which was the emotional needs of a kid or a teenager and the importance of that when going to school. Are you either school district planning or already doing something to help support the emotional being of the kids, either being away from each other for so long or going back into adapting to school, or if their parents have chosen to keep them at home for distance learning? Like, is there any sort of emotional support being offered to the students?
Sure. So we actually have several numbers where kids or their parents can call in. Our counselors are available. Our mental health therapists are available to talk with kids. And so that's something, in addition to what we're able to offer, we also have a service called Care Solace that's basically a referral service, and they do follow up. And so some of our families that need something maybe for the whole family, and even things like substance abuse and those sorts of things, that's also available online. But our counselors and our therapists are available for kids that need that extra support.
That's good.
Same with us. We have mental health services for both our students and our employees. It's we can't forget them. It's been difficult on everyone, and I think as far as the students go, I have a junior daughter at home. Just being able to Zoom and see her friends in class, and being able to talk has been a help.
I was talking to a friend who's in Colorado, and she has a teenage daughter. And this was a few weeks ago, and she had mentioned that she was downstairs and her daughter was upstairs, and she heard her daughter talking. She's like, who has she been talking to for the past hour? And turns out she was having a phone call. And it's really funny that she kids, we had this stereotype that would never want to have conversations. They just wanted to be on their phones and social media and texting. And now here we are back to real conversations, and that's so healthy for the soul. So, a couple questions on clarification of independent studies. It's not just the typical independent study where you pick up a packet and take it home. It is more virtual learning, correct?
Yeah, good question. So independent study is actually like the auditing guideline format that we have to follow. In terms of what it would look like programmatically for kids, yes, it would be the distance learning, it would be connection with teachers, online Zooming, it would be follow-up it would be an interactive experience. So independent study is just kind of the mechanism. And then as far as programs, it would look similar to what some of our teachers are doing now in terms of working with their kids, again, through Zoom meetings and other sources.
Perfect.
Same with us. It would look similar to what we are doing right now. I think going back to a silver lining, I think most kids in college now are having to take online courses, and our students getting experience in taking online because it is different. I think it's important that our students continue to get experience in online courses. And we may have student schedules, and I'm just guessing at this point, where they are in class for 5 periods and they have one online class, some type of a hybrid schedule.
Yeah, that's a really good point. A couple different questions, or same questions from different people. With so many industries, airlines looking at how it's going to change moving forward and whether or not masks are required or not, has that been something that's been talked about in going back to school?
Yes, we've talked about it. I mean, right now the plan, again, assuming that things stay as they are, we don't know. But right now the plan is to provide masks, and actually for both students and teachers. And so that's the plan right now. We're still in discussions. That hasn't been solidified yet, but that's some of our early discussions.
And we will abide by all the rules that are laid out there, whether we provide the mask or the students bring their own, hasn't been decided yet, but definitely err on the side of caution.
And I just want to remind everybody watching, you keep hearing these gentlemen remind everybody, as of right now, things can change. Nothing's set in stone. This is a snapshot interview as of May 11th at 12:38 p.m. So don't hold them to anything. If you said, I saw you watching, or I heard you say on the Century 21 Discoveries video on May 11th, it is just it's every industry is in the exact same boat right now. So Joe, do you have any questions for these fine gentlemen?
Just another thought that has kind of run through all these things, a lot of talk on social distancing, and something I heard the other day was that we must strengthen our social well-being and connectivity while maintaining our physical distancing required in our present COVID-19 environment. So, keeping that sociability going, it's like Stephanie talked earlier about her friend in Colorado and the telephone conversations, the Zoom meetings, and all of those things, I think has all forced us to, improve our negotiating skills. And I think that's all part of it. And those are good things happening along the way. You guys are doing an amazing job. I have our marquee in front of the office. We put something up there last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, was it not? Yeah, and so we put up there, if you can read this, thank a teacher, Teacher Appreciation Week. And we think you guys do just an amazing job with the community. And the sociability or the social skills are so critical also. We were talking with Bob, and asking that question, how those kids handling it. And, they're much more resilient and resourceful than I think the three of us are, excluding Stephanie. I think she's still got a lot of resourcefulness going on in her. This is her genesis. She's the one that thought of all these things. This is good stuff.
That I'm going through all the comments. We're getting a ton of thank yous. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for putting the kids first. Thank you for clarification on some of those questions. So I think we've got quite a bit of happy campers that are watching right now. So I think, one last question. Resources for parents during this time and as things are changing. If each of you have either an email address or a website or a phone number that the parents can reach out if they've got questions or clarifications. And then I can actually put that in the comments as well.
Sure. It's It's www.fullerton, S as in school, D as in district.org. And we're calling it FSD 360, a circle of support. You'll see that on the website.
Perfect.
Same with us, guys. Hold on one second here. Just go fjusd.org.
fjusd.org?
SD.org, yes.
Perfect. I will make sure those get into the comments, so if anybody has any further questions, they can turn there. But with that, Joe, would you like to wrap us up?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, gentlemen. The other thing is that you two have something in common as well, as you're both Rotarians. And, we've done a lot of work there these past in COVID on that, since that started. But you guys are doing a great job of leading our district and our community, and your love for the kids and the opportunity. And, we talked a little bit about a virtual graduation. We had a virtual awards appreciation where we gave out awards for production for 2019 to our realtors. And, it was a lot different, but people still, they enjoyed it and they got into it. And there was a lot of bantering going back and forth, and that's always good. But I also, when you think about it, it's also, it's the kids feel it, the parents feel it, but, the teachers feel it too, and you guys feel it, because that's something to be able to look that kid in the eye that you've been watching and mentoring for 12 years and see him come or her come through at the end with plans to go on to higher education. That's also, rewarding as well. So job well done. Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Stay tuned for the next one. Bye, everybody.
All right, anytime.